When you got a hot tool like this, especially if it starts to build up, just want to keep the smoke away from it, especially if it starts to build up residue of foam on the edges, give the tool a cleaning, because that foam will start to act as an insulator and kill the heat. Doesn't matter if it's a hot wire foam factory tool or almost any tool. If it starts building up a charred layer of styrofoam, it's a less efficient tool, so keep it clean. Okay, evaluation-wise, could I have done the same bit with another tool? Yes, I could have. I could have done it with my hot wire power source, but what I would have needed to do is build an entirely another specialized tool out of a heavier gauge resistance wire that could retain its shape. So I'd be building the tool, I'd be doing it. That same tool that I would have had to build would have to be a right angle. It would be set to a certain depth and edge. So, you know, if you don't have any kind of electronic experience and you're not comfortable doing that, that would have been impractical. Could I have done this with the soldering iron or the wood burner? Arguably, I could have, but rather than a nice smooth cut, it would have been several channels. Oh, no bang. That was delightful. It would have been several channels of me slowly munching this away with the wood burning tool. So I'm going to come and give you guys a close-up of this so you can see about how it turned out. There's the bang. Okay. Let's try to get this in the light. Okay, so here are the channels that were done. Some of you might be going, what's with that stupid wavery line? That looks terrible. Oh my god. Well, over here, oh, this lighting isn't good. That's not too bad. That's a little better. Over here, the channels are nowhere near as bad because I had some practice with my hand in it at the time. The only aspect I found a little frustrating were these stringy, wiry bits that I have mentioned before. I wasn't a big fan of that, but I imagine with a variable strength power supply, if I could have amped the heat of the tool up, I would have found that easier going. Now you might still be going, you still got these stupid, god-awful channels. They're all kind of rumbly, bumpity, and horrible looking. Well, I never planned on having those channels be the final say, no matter what. Absolutely not. So as soon as I drop some other stuff over here, and wish I had a much larger apartment, I never intended these channels to be an end-all be-all. I've got my sanding block and some sandpaper here, and all I'm going to do is give them a nice go-over, and that'll take all the lines and ridges right out of it. I suppose if you had a power sander, you could possibly use that too, to just go right over it and just make a channel with a power sander. But I'm showing off hot tools, damn it. And of course, one of the joys of this tool is I can actually put it down while it's still on. I'm not worried that it's going to roll all over the place. Okay. A couple of things. First off, like I said, these little fuzzies are just annoying, but I'm guessing with a variable power supply they won't be as problematic, but man, they're just frustrating. One other thing, the last thing I did was I noticed that in the area between my two stones where they didn't quite line up, the one really nice feature of that tool is I was able to just grab that hot knife right there and just do a quick trim on it and cut it right through, and that was extremely handy. Very, very nice feature. The other thing that occurred to me as I was going through it was that your perspective is me over here across the room, and you're not really able to see anything that I'm doing up close. So I'm going to clear the table of what I can here, just get rid of some of these foam bits, and for this last remaining section here, I'm going to try to bring the camera around to that other kind of nice zoomed in angle and really give you an idea of just what the hell I'm doing and how I'm using this tool, rather than, oh, watch me in fast motion, da 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 da, oh, doesn't this look cool? You can't see anything, sorry about that. So let me reconfigure. Let's get you in for this last little strip so you can see just exactly what the hell I'm doing with the tool and how I'm using it. We might even also bust out the engraving tool to see if that might not be a better thing, to kind of go up the sides with the engraving tool and then to use the hot knife tool to cut it right along. So stay tuned. I'm going to do a clean up, recombobulate here, and show you things from an angle you can see. Now you're down here at project level with me. So hopefully you'll have a much better idea of exactly what the hell I'm doing. I'm not even going to try to get my face in the shot because I don't really fancy breaking my neck here. So this is the surface I was just doing. And I'm going to be going up this side here as much as possible. When I reach the turning point, I'm going to switch over to the engraving tool. And I'm going to see if I can make the cut edge here with the engraving tool. Now that I notice it, this I might even be able to use this line on the engraving tool as a depth marker to help make this a little more easy. So I'll be trying that by the time I get a little bit further back in the project, back to this point here. But this is what I've been doing from a much more project-based perspective. Now I am going to say one thing you're not seeing here, respirator on the way, is before I was able to watch the tip of the tool as it went down this channel. From this perspective, I'm not going to have that advantage, because to do that I'd have to really be almost in the frame of the shot, which will block your view incredibly. So I'm just going to try to do my very best to get it, but if this cut is uneven, that's only because I don't have the perspective, because I've just switched up to something where you guys can see better instead of having the perspective where I can see the tool tip at work. So just FYI, if you see glitches, it's not because anything else has changed, it's just my perspective is now off because you have my old perspective. Not bad. So now you're able to see what I did. So I'm going to switch up to the engraver now and see if I can't get a line down this. Oh, these strings. Try to get a line down here with the engraver, and then I'm going to try to cut the bottom with the hot knife and see if that improves things any. It'll at least give us a different method. And one facet I really do say I have to enjoy about these tools, the fact that I can swap one to the other with such ease. Yes, I know it's not hard to unplug one and plug in the other one, but this one, everything's already plugged. I just quickly swap the ports. That is a nice feature. Let's be cheeky and really put this tool to the test, shall we? Okay, it's not the most effective, but in all fairness, that's not what this tool was designed to do, so I just had to know if it could be used that way. So there's my outer edge ridge, which has been done. Speaking on full evaluation, I did like doing this part here the best, because when the engraver came down, it left a wider furrow, so I was able to see the tip of the hot knife a lot easier as it went through that section. I could tell that I wasn't going too far in to the foam on the opposite side. That made it a lot easier to do. Apart from that, I've got a lot of rough areas on here, but again, I kind of counted on that anytime you're going through. I could just as easily grab the old Mark 1 knife here and go back over this and try to smooth a lot of this back out. And that would get me an edge that might be a little cleaner, but I mean, just looking at this here right now, that might not be the best idea. That'll fix in melting, and that will also be easily covered by good old happy wood filler. So there's been my outer edge decor done on both sides. So now I'm going to pick the side I like best. I'm going to make the epitaph on it. Then I'm going to use the engraver to do it to it. Give it some damage, and then use my weathering technique with water and a blowtorch to give it some aging. One thing I'm noticing about this foam, and perhaps you're noticing it as well, there's all these little lines on here. This foam has really got, I don't know if some water has seeped into it from the outside, but it's definitely got this lined effect. I don't know if I like that. I don't know how well it's going to turn out in the final, especially after I give it that blowtorch treatment. But I'm going to pick a side, make an epitaph, and when I get back to it with the engraver, I will tune y'all back in, and we can see just how well this little gizmo performs on some tough lettering, or not tough lettering. Well, we'll see. I'll catch you then. Hello everyone! I have managed to get my epitaph more or less scrawled on here. Yeah, so I really just don't use stencils. Please do, if you're worried about them being all sorts of crazy, or the lettering being off. I don't care, because the graveyard's dark. It's really dark. And I don't generally spotlight my stones unless I really put some serious cool into them. And not to say this one isn't cool, but not only is my graveyard dark, it's dingy. It's old. It's broken. Not all the stuff adds up right. It's So I'm not taking really the super lettering option here. But my epitaph is on. I am replacing again one of my old tombstones with this newer format, which I hope will be much cooler. And we are going to show off the Hotwire Foam Factory engraving tool. I'm sorry, I'm just enjoying how it twitches in the camera like that. It's strangely hypnotic. But I'm going to go ahead, use it on this, and give you kind of a project eye view down of how it works and how well it works. I've had it heating up for a few moments and enjoying the fact that, again, I can just leave it there without it rolling around, as opposed to those other bloody awful wood burners. I'm going to preemptively put on my respirator just because the kitchen is not terribly well ventilated tonight. And incidentally, if the tool is cutting what you think might be too slow a speed, just give it a little bit more of a push. I guarantee you, like I'm doing that with mine right now, I'm just giving a little bit of a shove through the foam, and it's picking up the slack. I am in no way at a point here where it's like I feel like the tool is holding me back. I feel like if I want to go faster, I just give the tool a harder shove, and we're good. And I'm also wondering if, as I mentioned earlier, as I carved out the side channels there, if perhaps having the variable strength power supply would also be a key to eliminating any of those little side frizzies that are giving me such a questioning moment. If you could make the tool just a little bit hotter, maybe you'd stop running into them. I guarantee you though, right now, if I was using the wood burner, I would have the respirator on because it would be kicking up a lot more smoke than this one is. here's lettering. Hopefully we can give that a mostly close-up-ish view as best we can. There we go. Thoughts on the tool, having done a whole face on it. Not a fan of the frizzies, all these little strings that are coming out, but I'm gonna bite my tongue on that until I see how it comes out, because it's possible they will all melt right away as soon as I do the aging effect on this. The lower temp of the tooltip, as I mentioned before, gives superior control. If I was doing this with a wood burner or a soldering iron, one, I would have gone faster. But two, I wouldn't have been able to have quite as much fun, to be honest with you. I was able to really just enjoy myself making up some weird little font bits here. So, you know, that was kind of a treat for me. Normally, if I'm using one of the other tools, I don't get that luxury. One little push makes my happy little new font experiment decide to go slightly over the edge. So that was really, really nice. I like the lower temp of this. No other notes, really. It's a straight up engraver. Does its thing. Again, frizzies, but control. And frizzies might not even be an issue once we break out the old blowtorch. But yeah, I was definitely able to have a lot more fun adding some little serifs and bits to the letters, so I'll give that a win. I'm going to do this shape up here, see if I can get a little bit more artsy with it, and experiment with this on some non-lettering type of surfaces. I might also try to take a decorative runnel up the side just for spits and giggles. So here we go. You might not get as good an angle with this one because ain't no way I'm reaching halfway across the tombstone just to show off a tool. So bear with me if you're getting the weird upside down, what the hell is this alien claw thing version of this.